Good morning. Coming to you early today. We're going to be heading to the cities for Hunter's birthday was yesterday, so we're tomorrow and Sunday should be about on time. Monday will be early again, and for those of you that tune in on YouTube, I won't be getting anything more posted until Monday night for YouTube. Today we look at Matthew 20 verses 17 through 34. And Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. He's with his disciples. It says they're going up to Jerusalem. He takes his 12 disciples aside, separate from the rest of the crowd that's following, and tells them again, for this is his third prediction of what's going to happen. Behold, we're going to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes. They will condemn him to death, deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and scourge and crucify, and the third day he will rise again. So the third time that Jesus very plainly tells his disciples what's going to happen. And, in everything that's going on, they really don't understand. They don't completely believe it. They can't wrap their heads around that. And I totally understand that. And then in Matthew's gospel, then right after that, it's the mother of Zebedee's sons. So the mother of James and John comes and says, kneels down in front of him and asks him. And he says, what do you want? Well, grant that my two sons will sit one at your right hand and one at your left when you come into your kingdom. Grant them positions of prestige and power and honor and all of that, and Jesus says you just really don't know what you're asking, but the boys evidently are right there too. Like boys, they're men, because when Jesus asks, "Are you able to drink what I'm going to drink and be baptized? Are you going to be able to live with everything that's going to happen to me is going to happen to you as well?" And they say, "We are able." Pretty much false confidence, because we know that they all run away and everything later on. But it's one of those things that as parents, we want good things for our kids. We look out for our kids. We try our best to give our kids every opportunity. And I think, as much as sometimes the mother of James and John gets a little bit belittled or a little bit, crucified almost for this request. It isn't really out of the ordinary for a parent that way to really want the best, good opportunities, for their children. And then, of course, the next thing we find out is that the other 10, they get upset with James and John. Well, I mean, in Mark's gospel, it's the James and John that asked Jesus. But, here, I mean, why should the other disciples be upset with James and John if, in fact, it was their mother that asked the question? I mean, maybe, who knows? But it's just, it's one of those things, too, that we don't like it when someone else maybe gets a little bit more than we do. We don't like it if somebody, makes the team and we don't, or whatever the situation might be. But Jesus' response to them, that they need to be servants. Let whoever desires to be first, let him be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And then he says something that always gives me heartache. He came to give his life as a ransom for many. And, for all. It would be such a nicer word in there, for all. But we know that not everybody is going to believe in Jesus as Lord and Savior. Not everybody accepts Jesus, especially in Jesus' day. I mean, how many really were followers of Jesus? Not very many. And it's true yet today. But he gave his life as a ransom for many. And we are counted within that many. So it's a good thing for us that way. And then this chapter concludes with, as they're walking out of Jericho, so Jericho and Jerusalem aren't very far apart, so Jerusalem is the next place they'll be, other than, well, in Bethpage, which is a small suburb. But these two blind men are sitting along the road, and in Mark's gospel or Luke's gospel, one or the other of them, it's blind Bartimaeus, I think, that sits along the side of the road. And when he hears the commotion, they wonder, well, who is there? And they cry out when they hear it's Jesus, and they cry out, have mercy on us, O Lord, Son of David. And of course the crowd, don't bother Jesus. He's got more important things to deal with than you. I mean, and sometimes I think we feel that way. Maybe in both of those ways, really. Sometimes we may think that somebody else isn't deserving of God's love and grace or whatever, but also sometimes we don't think that we are deserving of God's love and grace. It kind of works both ways. But these two blind men, their ears work, their mouths work, and they've heard about Jesus, and so they're not afraid to try to get Jesus' attention, and they cry out above the crowd, and Jesus hears them. And that's such an important thing, and I've commented on that before many times as well, that God hears our voice. Jesus, just as Jesus hears the voice of these two blind men crying out, Lord, have mercy on us, above all of the clamor of the crowd traveling around and all of the chaos that way. And the people were chattering and talking. I mean, it wasn't just a silent group of people that was walking. There was a lot of noise there, but yet Jesus heard their plea. And it's just a reminder for us that God hears our pleas. God knows what's going on in the midst of everything else that's going on. God isn't foreign to hearing us. God is open to hearing us. And then there's a kind of a turn of events, because Jesus comes to these two men and he says, what do you want me to do for you? Whereas these two disciples, or their mother that said, grant this, that they can, Jesus asks these two blind men what they want. What do you wish me to do for you? And they said, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. I mean, they want something for themselves, but I think about that too, as if their eyes are opened and they can see, then rather than having to sit along the road and beg, they would be able to be productive people in the community. They would have their lives back. They would be given life again. Be given the ability to live and to work and to do all of those things that a person should normally do. And so Jesus, it says, has compassion and touches their eyes, and immediately their eyes received their sight, and they followed him. But so Jesus not only stopped where these two men were, but he got close enough to them to touch them, to touch their eyes. And it's sometimes we kind of think that God is somewhere way out there, but he's not. I mean, he's just as close to us as our breath, as our thoughts, and all of that as well. And so as Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, knowing what's going to happen there, he still takes time to have compassion and to heal those that need healing. And we're going to find that even in the upcoming days when Jesus is in Jerusalem for that final time, that he doesn't just get sidetracked with all of that, but stays focused to his purpose. And his purpose is to give his life as a ransom, as he said, for many.